Hello everybody. Welcome to Math 10 A and W with Mr. Sandhu. We are in chapter 1.1. This is example number 3 on page 16. So what we have here is some information about Charles and his restaurant. He works as a cook and he has a chicken soup recipe. And in that chicken soup recipe is 11 cups of broth, 5 cups of vegetables, 3 cups of rice, and 3 cups of chicken. Now that is the recipe that he makes to make a restaurant-sized portion. But here's the problem. He wants to make the recipe at home for his parents. To produce the recipe, he needs to know what the ratios are between the quantities. So he's essentially wanting to make the same proportions. He wants the same amount of chicken compared to rice and compared to vegetables and broth. He doesn't want suddenly to have a dish that has way more chicken or way less chicken. So he's trying to keep these proportions intact, but he wants to make the overall recipe smaller. So what they're asking for us to do first is identify what is the ratios here. What are the ratios between vegetables to chicken? Now, here's how you do this. What you want to do is you want to identify the numbers by reading this sentence and going in order. So this is saying what is the ratio of vegetables to chicken in that order. So when I take a look at vegetables, I see that there's 5 cups of vegetables. So since vegetables appears first in the sentence, I'm going to go 5. To chicken. So we're going to use this colon here to represent 2 when we write a ratio. Vegetables to chicken, and when we see here chicken is 3 cups. So the ratio of vegetables to chicken is written as 5 to 3. If you want to write that in fractional form, it would be 5 compared to 3. All right? And that's handy because when we go to do mathematical calculations, you're going to want to write your ratios in this form when we have to solve equations or solve problems. All right, what is the ratio of broth to vegetables? So we have them asking us to look at broth. So the broth is 11 cups. 11 cups of broth compared to vegetables. There's the vegetables. Again is 5. So 11 to 5. Or 11 compared to 5 if you want to write it as a fraction. Moving along. Ratio of chicken to rice. So we have chicken was 3 compared to rice, which is 3. All right. Now, this is 3 to 3, and there is a simpler way to say this. You know, I can prove that by showing you when we put it in fractional form, 3 compared to 3, I would say that is more easily represented as 1 over 1, right? So 3 to 3 is actually the same as 1 compared to 1. You know, if you're not sure when you have a fractional form, there are videos in chapter 1.1 at the very beginning, I believe at example number 1, that shows you how to reduce this. I'll just quickly do it without too much explanation. Divide the top by 3, divide the bottom by the same amount, and you get 3 divided by 3 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so this is it here. So let me just finish this question by saying 3 compared to 3 is also 1 compared to 1. If this is a question on a test, you would not get full marks for writing 3 compared to 3. You would get full marks for writing 1 compared to 1, because that is a simpler way of doing it. All right. This last question, what is the ratio of the chicken to the total ingredients? Now this is where they try to trip you up. They're not comparing chicken to rice or chicken to vegetables. They're comparing the chicken to the total. So the problem here is you do not have a total. There is no total here. So all you're going to have to do to solve this is you're going to have to make your own total. So let's do that. Let's create a total of all of these. We've got 11 plus 5 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. And 19 plus 3 is 22. So we have 22 cups of ingredients in total. This is the total amount of food that this recipe will make is 22 cups. All right, so now we can actually do this question because it says what is the ratio of the chicken compared to the total? So it's simple. We have chicken is 3 cups. So it's 3 cups compared to the total of 22 cups. All right. This is helpful information for this recipe, all right? Because once we know, let's see, yeah, once we know what ratio there is, we can figure out, once we know the ratio in the restaurant size recipe, we can figure out, well, how much chicken do I need to have my, family size recipe? And this question is not asking for you to do that, but because math's fun and because it's more fun when you can actually do something productive, let's do it. I'm going to find out on my own how much chicken would be in a recipe that is, let's say, a 5-cup recipe, right? This is a 22-cup recipe. How much chicken do I need in a 5-cup recipe? So let's do that. So we have, in the original recipe, we have 3 cups of chicken compared to 22 cups of an entire restaurant size recipe. Now I want to keep these in proportion, these recipes in proportion. So I know I want a 5-cup recipe in total, but how much chicken is that? So 3 compared to 22, well, how much compared to 5? And I've set up this equation, and just like we learned in 1.1 previously, solving these equations, you can watch that video if you want to in 1.1. I think it's example number 2. Or we can just do it right here. So I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I look across from the x, I see a 22. I know that that is going to be doing the dividing. I look across between these two numbers and they're going to do the multiplying. So cross multiply and divide. X is going to be the cross multiply of 3 times 5, all divided by the 22 that's on an angle across from the x. So cross multiply, then divide. That's what we're doing. Cross multiply, then divide. And let's finish this up. We have multiplying 3 times 5 and dividing by 22. And our answer is x is 0.68. So we were going to have 0.68 of a cup of chicken compared to 5 cups in the total meal. So our ratio of chicken compared to the total is going to be 0.68 cups compared to a total of 5 cups. And you know what? That's kind of weird because we've got this decimal. You can just think of it this way. 0.68 cups is almost 0.66 cups. But 0.66 is, if we reduce this and we chinched on the chicken just a little bit, we held back a little bit of chicken, we could say, well, it's actually 0.66, so which is actually 2/3 of a cup. That's an easy fraction for me to recognize. So it's, 2/3 of a cup compared to 5 cups. If you don't want to chintz on the chicken, you could say, well, you know what, it's 0.68. Let's give them 3/4 of a cup. Let's not. Let's give them some extra chicken in there. So we would go say, okay, that's 0.75 compared to 5 cups of food. That's going to be easier to measure, isn't it? 0.75 is 3/4, so 3/4 of a cup compared to 5 cups of chicken. All right, no big deal if I give my family a little bit less or a little bit more chicken. All right, so that's the useful application of this information. Thanks a lot, and enjoy your math.